for joining us, everybody. As a reminder, we're recording this meeting and we'll post the meeting minutes and the video and the materials to our website after this meeting. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Amber. So tonight we have two speakers from the Water Bureau's team. We have Deputy Program Manager Michelle Cheek and Facility Design Lead Lyda Hakes. And we'll start things off with a quick update from the program communications. Michelle will highlight some of our recent progress on the improved corrosion control project and some of the treatment and pipelines work. Then Lyda will share a current view and perspective of the facility site and design. Then we will end the meeting with some questions and feedback, but if you do have questions in the meantime, feel free to use the chat or raise your hand. Use the raise your hand tool. Go ahead and go to the next slide, thanks. As part of our commitment to keeping you informed, this is our first of our neighbor meetings since we completed the Good Neighbor Agreement in June. And we will continue to meet at least quarterly to provide updates, hopefully in person when the city determines it's safe to do so. We also send out updates in our e-newsletter at least monthly and more frequently if there's notifications about work activity or meetings. And we also keep our project website updated, and that's at bullrun or portland.gov/bullrun projects. So now I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to give you an update.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see everyone again, or I guess see your names anyways. So give you a quick update on the improved corrosion control treatment project. We're continuing to advance construction of the corrosion project, which will further reduce lead at our customers' taps. We completed installation of some piping under Lusted Road, and we were able to do this without a full road closure. We worked with the contractor to modify the design and installation so the full road closure was not needed. We're continuing work at the site to make connections between our existing systems and our new systems, such as electrical connections and some mechanical piping connections. We have a carbon dioxide tank being delivered later this month, which is the last piece of large equipment delivery for the project. Although this is a large piece of equipment, we do not anticipate needing any significant or full road closures for that piece of equipment to be delivered. And we're on track to have the project completed and online by our April 2022 compliance deadline. Next slide. So tonight's meeting is mostly focused on the filtration facility design updates, but we'd also like to share some updates on the pipelines portion of the project. We have continued ongoing outreach to property owners along the planned pipeline routes. Our pipelines design team is continuing work on preliminary design of the pipelines. We'll have some noise generating activities coming up in November, including some geotechnical boring work and some potholing work. One of the geotechnical borings will take place at the southeast corner of the facility site, and the other will be towards the north end of the site. Both of these borings will gather additional data about subsurface conditions along the planned pipeline route and inform the design of the pipelines. The potholing work will verify location of existing utilities, and all of this work will occur within the right-of-ways, mostly in Dodge Park, Lusted Road, Altman, and Oxbow. And then we're also in the process of getting the pipeline contractor under contract and anticipating having them on board this winter. And now I will turn it over to Lyda Hakes for the facility design updates. Lyda is a new face to this group, but definitely not new to the project. She is the Water Bureau's project manager for the design contract, and will be sharing some recent architectural and site design updates, including a 3D video walkthrough of the site. So with that, I will turn it over to Lyda.
Great, thank you, Michelle. It's great to be here with y'all tonight, and I think we can go ahead and get started. So first I wanted to share where we are in terms of our design milestones. The big ones for this summer were that we completed our basis of design report. That was earlier in June. And we most recently completed our 30% design. That was in August this summer. We'll get to our 60% design. That'll be complete this winter. The next summer, we'll get our 90% design, and we're anticipating a construction start in mid-2023. On the next slide, you'll see some figures that are familiar to y'all. These were shared in the June site advisory group meeting, and the points here is that the design team is continuing to refine the initial building concepts, and preferences came through from the community to really focus on integrating with the surrounding landscape, use muted material colors. And there's some initial feedback that some of the buildings were skewing a little more agrarian than the preference was. And that actually came through from our own staff as well. So this is what the initial concepts were back in June for the process building or the chemical building on the left. And our administration building on the right. If you go to the next slide, you'll see how that has changed. So the highlights here are that we brought back the asymmetry on the gable roof. So instead of being centered, it's offset. We also maintained the exterior lobby, or what we call the porch area. We ensured that it's still meeting that allowable height limit. And we kept the warm tone cladding, and that helps with kind of integrating into the surroundings and blending in better. On the next slide, here's a view of our process buildings. Again, you'll see that asymmetrical gable roof that harkens back to the rolling hills design that was popular. And also looking at the buildings are really, the building forms match the functionality of what's occurring inside the building. So these simple shapes and meeting the allowable height limit and being able to perform the needed work inside. On the next slide. Now we're looking at some views.
Hey, just want to pause real quick here. So Patricia has a question. What is the gray material on the front of the admin building?
So right now, these 3D renderings are showing a conceptual view. These materials have not been specified yet, but we would call that's generally called cladding, but we have not done the material selection yet. That'll occur later in design, but this at least gives you a feel conceptually for what we're looking for. And it's a great question. Those details will be fleshed out in later design phases. So here are a couple of views as you're approaching the site, what it's going to look like at the main entry gate. It's looking south from Carpenter Lane on the top photo or rendering. On the bottom rendering, you're looking at the site and you're looking from Bluff Road, looking north. So you can see how it kind of fills into the landscape there. On the next slide, here we have two views from adjacent properties. The top one is looking at the site looking east. And at the bottom, it's looking west from adjacent properties. So again, you can see the lower profiles and trying to blend in with the existing and surrounding landforms and landscapes. And I think if you go to the next slide. So now we have a model. We'll do a flyover that I'll walk you through. So thanks, Aubrey, for kicking it off. So right now we have a bird's eye view. We're looking north, and you'll see that the design maintains having the structures on the western portion of the site. We went ahead and changed the roof forms to better fit with the rolling hills concept and meet community and staff feedback. On the western side of the site, you'll see some berming and landscape. That landscape will continue to mature as time passes, and that'll help to screen views. As we travel on Carpenter Lane, we are now approaching the main entry gate. That gate has been set back from the property line. That was something we had heard through the Good Neighbor conversations. As we drive into the facility on the left, you'll see the maintenance building with the asymmetrical roof line. And on the right, you'll see the admin building. So again, we have that asymmetrical roof line there to go with the rolling hills concept. You'll see the landscape and the stormwater catchments are very similar to earlier renderings y'all have seen. And you see the warm tone cladding for the admin building. As we continue to approach from the parking lot, you'll see the front porch area. It's open, unconditioned, and we have the main entry into the building there on the right-hand side as well. These 3D renderings, they make the facilities feel a little bit more complete in their design than they truly are. And so we will continue to look at how we can refine these building forms and the material selection that was asked about earlier. That'll come in later design phases, and that'll be specified. Here we are back to the bird's eye view, pulling away from the facility. And again, you can see that concentration on the western side of the site. And Aubrey, that's all I have for y'all.
All right, so that was a great presentation. Thanks, Lyda, for giving us that update. Does anybody have any questions or feedback on what we've talked about today? I know it was a pretty short presentation, but we haven't had a whole lot that changed over the last time that we met in June. So happy to answer any questions. And if no one has questions, we're happy to end the meeting early. Okay, Patricia says, please explain how one can access the site. Lyda, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So what we are looking at right now is having 2 access points. One will be, let's see, if you go back a couple slides, Aubrey, that always helps to have a visual. We are looking at options for the northern access, and we are working with Multnomah County on which access to proceed with. And then, oh, thank you. Let's see. Maybe you can go to one that's a little zoomed out. I don't know if I have a good slide number for you handy. Okay, that'll work. So, so we have 2 options that we are considering, but we have to work out with the county, which one will be best suited for us. We are also looking at emergency access on the southern to the south of the site. So you can see outside of the main interior process area of the facility, there is a road that travels to the east and then along the property line. So that would be our southern access, and we're looking at that for emergencies only.
Okay, so Dean and Pat have said we're still curious about the road on the west side of the property, and I think, or west of their property. And so I think they're referring to the road that you're talking about, the south access, Lyda. So I think, let me know if there's something more specific that you wanted to know about that. We're still in this design. We haven't made any decisions about it yet. We're looking at that as an option. But if there's something more specific that you have about that, that access, let us know. Sam says, what modifications will be necessary for Carpenter Lane? And I think that's probably along that same line that we are still working out those details. But Lyda, do you have any, or Michelle, do you have any thoughts about that yet?
Yeah, I can jump in. Sorry, I'm trying to restart my video. You're right, Benita. We haven't identified any modifications for Carpenter Lane yet. It's dependent on our continued evaluation of access to the site. So as we get through those evaluations and have more information to share, we'll bring that back to the group for sure.
We should know more, do you think, by the end of the year about access? So for next meeting in January, do you think that?
Correct.
Okay. Good.
Yep. That's the plan.
Great. Anything else? You can raise your hand. You can, or your virtual hand, or you can type in the chat if you have any questions, thoughts. Okay, I don't see the tower.
Sure, I can help with that.
Okay.
So actually it is placed there. It's pretty well blended in on the On the slide we're looking on right now, the site looking north from Bluff Road, you'll see the Pleasant Home tanks are sticking up. Then you see some trees and you see a tiny black triangle kind of pointing up. That is the tower right there. So we have looked at placing it close to that tree stand so that it will blend in better. But we do have the tower there.
Thank you, Lida. Debbie and Roger have asked about if it's possible to get recordings of the previous meetings, and absolutely, they're all online on our website. I'll put that, or actually, Aubrey, if you're in the position to be able to put that into the chat, that would be great. Anybody else? Let's see. Sam asks, would eminent domain be utilized for access? Michelle, do you have a response for that?
Well, I don't have an exact answer for that. It depends on kind of those earlier questions on what we end up doing for access, and then any modifications that would be required to Carpenter Lane if we were to go that route. So we don't have the details yet to determine if additional property would be required, but as much as possible, our goal would be to stay in the right of way where we can.
Right. Anything else? Aubrey put that the meeting, past meeting list in the chat. So if you click on each one of those meetings, it has the videos, the summaries, and the presentation materials. Anybody else? All right. Well, then let's give it to the next slide. And so we are planning another information meeting in January when we anticipate to have more information about the pipeline progress and that access that seems like most people here are interested in. We've heard from a number of you that you'd like to meet in person. We'll continue to follow city guidelines, but we will schedule an in-person meeting if we can in January. Any last thoughts, questions? All right, I think this may be my quickest meeting of all time. All right, I appreciate you all coming out and taking a listen. And if you can, please do let your neighbors know about this information too, and share the web pages, and feel free to contact me if you have any additional questions. My contact information is on everything. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.